In March on Artifacts, you'll meet Claire Colliander from the Schubert Club, together with Jane Vogler of Musicopolis. The Film Board's own Kelly K2 Heikkila. From Theater de la Jeune, Lune, Bob Rosen and Sarah Agnew. And singer, songwriter, and former City Hallite Natalie Miller. All this and more action-packed artistry on Artifacts for March.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the March edition of Artifacts. I'm Janet Zahn with the Office of Film, Video, and Recording.
And I'm Phill Lindsay from the Minneapolis Community Development Agency, and this is our news segment on Artifacts.
The feature film continues on a steady roll in 1998. A made-for-TV movie called A Chance of Snow begins shooting this month, 1 week after director Sam Raimi wraps on A Simple Plan, starring Billy Bob Thornton, Bill Paxton, and Bridget Fonda. A Chance of Snow is a romance about a couple stranded at the airport for 24 hours by a storm. The film will be directed by Tony Bill, who was here in 1992 filming Untamed Heart, and we're very pleased to welcome him back to Minneapolis.
And Eye of the Storm Theater has announced that it will present the Midwest premiere of Paula Vogel's How I Learned to Drive. That'll happen this spring. Vogel's play has won the Obie, the Drama Desk, and the Outer Critics Circle Awards for Best New Play. It'll run May 15th through June 14th at the Loring Playhouse.
And the 1998 Minnesota Production Guide, the best resource to Minnesota's film and video industry, was just published in February. If you want to know more about how Minnesota makes it work, produces, creates, and cranks it out, you'll want a copy of the guide. They're available from the Minnesota Film Board.
And the 35th Annual Art Show by Artists with Disabilities opens Friday, the 17th of April at the Sister Kenny Institute in South Minneapolis. Some 300 artists from around the world will be participating. The deadline for artists to register is March 23rd.
And now, before we bring you our first guest, stay tuned for news on how you can win the always enticing Artifacts giveaway.
And then I'll be right back with two guests from the Schubert Club to talk about Schubert and an exciting program they're doing at Augsburg right after this.
This month, Artifacts invites you to celebrate a fascinating part of the city's history by giving away 2 tickets to the tour of the Historic State and Orpheum Theater, a $50 value, taking place on Saturday, March 28th from 9 in the morning till noon. Presented by Theater Live Education Department, the tour starts with a delicious breakfast and then takes you on a trip down memory lane up to the present-day set of the hit musical Chicago. Call the City Cable 34I line at 673-2234. Leave your name, address, and phone number on the answer machine by March 23rd.
Well, and that, by the way, is a very nice tour, so I urge you to call in, call early, and hopefully you can be the lucky winner of that. Well, I'm very excited to have the next two guests on the show. They're affiliated with a venerable arts institution here in the Twin Cities, and one's a friend and one's a new friend. I want to welcome Jane Vogler.
Thank you.
And Claire Colliander.
Hi.
The friend. You're both with the Schubert Club. Now, for those folks who don't know, the Schubert Club is really venerable. It's been around for a long time. Claire, a little background on the Schubert Club.
Well, the Schubert Club was founded in 1882, so it's over 100 years old. It's one of the oldest arts organizations in this part of the country. And it started out at kind of a time when people had recitals and soirees in their homes, and a group of women were doing that and wanted to start something more formal and start having artists from other parts of the country and other parts of the world come in and give performances. So they started the Schubert Club, and a few years later they started the International Artist Series, which is maybe what people know us for, which is a recital series that now happens at the Ordway, but it's in its 104th season this year.
Which for the United States is amazing.
It
I mean,
is.
anything that's 100 years
in this
old,
part of the country.
especially around here.
Right.
When did Franz Schubert live? Was he still alive when the club was
You
started?
take that one.
I believe mid to late 1800s. He was, I think, 34 years old when he died.
Yeah, I know that he didn't, and of course, that's right, we just celebrated his centennial, last year or
Right.
something.
That's right.
So, but he wasn't long deceased when the Schubert Club in Minnesota started.
Right.
Right.
How did people here, I don't want to say know about him, I'm sure he was world famous, but I mean, what was the attraction to Franz Schubert to these folks who were still kind of pioneering?
Well, I think that's just a name of the club. We really haven't ever been strictly Schubert. It's just the name of the club. Like the Chopin Society is not exclusively Chopin.
Okay, so you're not just hearing Lieder if you're going to go to the Schubert Club. Okay.
No, but there is definitely an emphasis on recital music.
Right, so it could have been a Salieri Club or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm sorry.
Harder to spell.
More vowels, and it's just... And you are the Finance and Development Director?
Administrator.
Administrator. And
yeah.
what, in a nutshell, is that all about?
It means that I'm doing grant writing and raising money, and then I write the checks and spend it. Basically help with the budgeting, do sort of the business side of the organization.
Yeah. Do you have a training in that? Is that something you grew up and wanted to do?
I was an English major, so no.
Okay.
I guess that helps out with the grant writing, but
yeah. Oh,
no.
I'm sure it does. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have to be loquacious and know what you're saying and be able to sell that, that good program. And Jeune, you're involved with some of the programs over at the Schubert Club. How did you get involved with all of this?
I started out as a volunteer at Minneapolis, which is our newer program in education at the Sabathani Community Center. I started out as a volunteer and that gradually turned into a paying job, and then I started working at Project Cheer, which is the flagship program in education at the Schubert Club, which has been around since 1968, teaching piano. And then a friend of mine at Augsburg College, Jill Daw, and I had an idea that the Schubert Club, Augsburg College, and the Cedar Riverside Community School should partner up and do a piano program for the Cedar Riverside kids who don't have a music program at all. So I got involved in all three parts.
Wow, and that one in the Cedar River, that's called Ars Nova?
Right.
Right. Well, let's jump back half a step to this program, Minneapolis, which I like the title. Down at the Sabathani Center in South Minneapolis. What is it you're trying to accomplish there? What is it the Schubert Club is hoping will be the outcome?
Well, I have a great belief that music education should be accessible to everyone, and just because certain kids aren't able to pay $30 a pop for a lesson, that doesn't mean that they should be denied that. So my goal as director of the program is to put together a program that's a lot of fun, where kids are really learning stuff and truly being musicians.
Yeah, that's quite admirable. Are kids showing up? I mean, is it popular?
Yeah, we're full.
That's great.
So.
Great. And how long has that particular program been going on?
I believe about 2 years. It's not very old yet.
Okay.
We have a piano program, which is full. Our kindergarten through second grade choir, which has been in existence for about 3 weeks, is full, and we're still actually looking for bodies for our third through fifth grade choir, which is taught by a public school teacher, Lagretta Stegner, and her friend Stan Hill, who's a wonderful guy. He's a behavior specialist, and everybody comes in and they respect where they are. And
well, I was going to ask about that because you're dealing with little kids. What's the youngest? Kindergarten, essentially?
Yeah, kindergarten or first grade.
Or first grade, and then up to what grade?
I have a couple of ninth graders.
Okay, but the younger youth, really. And you're saying they're motivated, in other words. What you're saying is they're not coming in and they're not squirming. This isn't something they feel compelled to do. They want to do it.
Right, this is a gift to them, and I make it very clear that this is a scholarship, and you're here because I believe in you, and you're expected to do something with your talent. And they really respond to that, I think. I have one girl right now who would like to go to college with her music, and so I'm trying to prepare her for that.
Wow. How old is she?
She's ninth grade.
Okay. So she's got some plans.
Yeah. And she has some
you're...
time to develop her talents, too, before she actually gets to be 18 and we're booting her off into the world.
Are you one of the teachers, then? You actually tickle the ivories, then, for these kids?
Right.
And you have a musical training background?
I did my piano performance and English degree at Augsburg College.
Wow, that's great. You were nice enough, Claire, to actually bring, because the Schubert Club does a lot of things, as you say. It's not all Franz Schubert, and it's not all just Western music.
Right.
And you brought a wonderful example of one of the things that you all work with, or some of your people work with. You want to show that to us?
Well, what I have here is a shadow puppet, which is part of the Schubert Club's Indonesian Gamalan program, which was started about 3 years ago when the Schubert Club commissioned an artisan in Java, Indonesia, to build a gamelan orchestra, which is about over 40 instruments of just gorgeous painted and carved wood and brass. It's percussion and some gongs and things that look a little bit like a xylophone. It's just mesmerizing music. And it goes with traditional Indonesian shadow puppet performance and Indonesian dance. So this is the White Monkey Prince, and I wish I could do the hand movements like you're supposed to, but he's got the lead in a performance that the Schubert Club is doing with Heart of the Beast Puppet Theater. And that performance is actually happening March 21st and 22nd. And it features our Gamalan musicians playing on the Schubert Club Gamalan with shadow puppets and I believe some Indonesian dance. I'm not sure about that.
Wow,
So
it's
that's-
just gorgeous in the detail. I'm hoping our camera can get close enough up here. When I think of shadow puppets, I think of them behind a screen, and so why in the heck would you need the detail? But this is just gorgeous, close up. Who is this character?
This is the White Monkey Prince.
Wow. I think I'd want to meet him at a performance and not in an alley.
Well, you know, I think this is actually a good guy.
Oh, this is a good guy. Okay.
Yeah.
My buddy.
Yeah.
The
It's
prince
sometimes
here.
hard to tell.
That's great. Now, the Gamalan you mentioned, the fact that the Schubert Club has one, there are very few in this continent, isn't that correct?
That's right. Our Gamalan was, you know, certainly Minnesota's first
Yeah.
Gamalan, and for the region, really one of the few Gamalans. But it's just been amazing, the response to this program. We have, estimate that this year probably 4,000 or 5,000 people will participate in some way in our Gamalan program.
Now, with an instrument that complex, as you described it, it's many parts, essentially. Do people have to come to where you have it, or can you take that out to audiences?
Well, that has been kind of an issue. We've, for the most part, we don't want to move it. It's just because there are so many pieces of it and very large pieces, it's difficult. But we are able to take some of the instruments out and do school residencies, which we have done. And we did actually move the whole Gamalan, and the ensemble players, which are volunteers who have learned how to play the Gamalan, we took them up to Grand Forks in the fall. They were opening a new art center there, and our Gamalan performed there, and people loved it. Loved it.
Now, how did the Schubert Club decide that the Gamalan is something they wanted to embrace? I mean, they had the whole world to look at. What keyed them on Indonesia and that particular instrument?
Well, they have had an emphasis in sort of non-Western music, which kind of stems from the Schubert Club has a larger museum program, and part of that museum program is non-Western instruments and non-Western music. And they decided to commission this Gamalan to be made. And we had done some collaboration. There was a Gamalan Society of Minnesota who kind of, after a performance, they co-sponsored a performance where we brought in the Boston Village Gamalan, which is one of the better-known Gamalans in this country. They came and performed at the Ordway. And then the Gamalan, Minnesota Gamalan Society, kind of talked the Schubert Club into purchasing
so there's a little
Gamalan.
collaboration there at
right.
that point, so let's do this together.
Right.
Well, we have just a minute left, and I want to ask Jane one more quick question, and you alluded to it earlier, but classical music and today's kids, is there a fit there? Are they interested in it?
Oh, I think so. I think if I have met kids who aren't interested in classical music, it's because some adult has put it on them that this isn't interesting or you can't possibly understand this. I think kids really go for all kinds of music, and unless you tell them, you can't possibly do this, this is boring, they're not going to think that by themselves.
Fair enough. That's good to hear. I'm glad that they're working out. If people want to know more about Musicapolis, Ars Nova, the thing you're doing with Heart of the Beast, is there a general phone number for the Schubert Club they can call?
The Schubert Club is 292-3267.
Okay. So they can call that and get information about all these programs and things that are coming up. Any other big productions and events that you want to mention?
And Sophie von Otter is coming May 4th with her accompanist Bengt Forsberg. She'll be at the Ordway on May 4th.
Okay. Sponsored by the Schubert Club.
Right, that's part of our International Artist Series.
That's great. The old classic part.
Right.
That goes back to 1882.
Yeah, that's the oldest. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you. We just touched on it. I'm afraid we have to go. Jane, pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Claire, good to see
Thanks,
you.
Phil.
Well, there's still much more to come on Artifacts, including a video of a public art project called Message in a Bottle. It's by Todd Peterson. His piece is part of a video yearbook produced by Forecast Public Artworks, and it's coming up in about 15 seconds. Stay with us.
My name is Todd Peterson, and this is my studio at 2823 Nicollet Avenue in South Minneapolis. And this is for the Message in the Bottle project. I thought about the project about a year ago, and the idea of, I'm a painter and a screen printer, and the idea of taking images and putting them into a bottle, prints that I make, and putting them into a bottle and putting them out on the street for people to find and to do with what they want to do with them. Okay, this is the print that I did for the project. It's an image of my mother and my grandfather, and my mother's right there, and my aunt, who's right there, in front of their home, alongside, inscribed a message that says, all the roses in the world will bring you back again. And for the project, what we do is we take a bottle that has a pencil inside of it, and it's got a SOS written on it. It sort of says, I think a friend remarked, save our souls, for the project. And a postcard, self-addressed, with some questions on it, like where did you find this bottle? What did you think when you first saw the bottle? What do you think about the print, and what are you going to do with the print? Simply what I do is just take it and carefully roll it up, put a rubber bander inside, open it up, and hopefully it'll fit. There it goes. Goes down inside. And then do the same with the envelope. I'll put that inside. And there's never very good with bows, but we tie the bow a little bit more. And put the cork on. And we're ready to roll. Well, I'm looking to place the bottles, obviously where people can, find them. Also, places of, interest, or history in my life, personal importance. Well, we went out, today, April 12th, to the corner of Lyndale and Lake to place the first bottle. The first spot I picked was across the street by its Greek to Me restaurant, and there wasn't too much traffic there, so we decided to move it across the street in front of a bus stop. And lo and behold, some people came walking across the street, and a man picked up the bottle, and he, opened it, and he walked down the sidewalk, and we were in a truck, doing surveillance work, so we were able to capture him going down the sidewalk. And then about 5 minutes later, a car pulled up in front of us, and a woman got out and placed the bottle back with the print in it and the pencil. So it was they took the pencil, so it was without the pencil. So it was back to the drawing board. So we rewrapped the print up and the postcard, and put a new pencil in, and put it back on the corner. And soon after, two young men came by and picked the bottle up and opened it and took it across the street and sat down on a bench, waiting for him, by a bus stop. And they filled out the postcard, and they then sort of flattened the postcard out, which was nice, and they dropped the postcard into the mailbox, which was nearby. And then they rolled the print up and put it into the bottle and walked across the street and went on their way. And actually we saw them putting the bottle into the knapsack. 2 days later, I got the postcard back in the mail, and all the questions were filled out. For example, they responded, where did they find the bottle? They wrote Lake and Lyndale. And to the question, what did you think when you first saw the bottle? They wrote, what is this? And he also wrote, I think what you do is super cool. And also, thanks for the art. I put the other bottles out a couple weeks later, and I put one in Loring Park, sort of, in the crook of a tree. And a couple days later, I got this postcard back. And they responded to the question, what did you think when you first saw the bottle? The person wrote that I had found something special, and I was lucky. it exceeded my expectations. I mean, the people filled out the postcards, and they responded to the art, which was exactly 100% what I wanted them to do. So I feel pretty fulfilled that the bottles reached their target audience.
Again, that was Message in a Bottle by Todd Peterson, which was part of a video yearbook called Exploring the Public Realm, produced by Forecast Public Artworks. Thanks to Dave Carlson of Metronet for bringing the yearbook to our attention. And now, drum roll please, I'd like to welcome Kelly K2 Heikkila from the Minnesota Film Board.
Thanks for having me, Jen.
I'm glad you could come.
Me too.
And you are the new Director of Production for the Film Board?
That's correct, as of January 1st.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Very exciting, and I do want to learn all about that.
Okay.
But I have a really pressing matter that I think we need to pay attention to.
Yep.
To. How did you get the nickname K2?
The most important.
Yes.
Well, my predecessor, who had been at the film board for 10 years, Kelly Pratt, or Kelly Pratt Raymond, is also a Kelly. And we have a small office, and so whenever anyone called for Kelly, we'd never know who it was. And I started there as an intern about 6 years ago, and the nickname K2 just stuck. I'm a skier, and I'm 6'3", and it's the coolest nickname we could think of. So, and it's really stuck, and everyone seems to remember it, and a lot of people know me specifically as K2. They wouldn't know who Kelly Heikkila was. So.
It is
I
great.
like it.
It's really great. I thought I knew that was a good story. I wanted to share it. Earlier in the news segment here on Artifacts, we talked about made-for-TV movie, A Chance of Snow, that's going to be coming to the Twin Cities. And as director of the production of the Minnesota Film Board, you had a great deal to do with that film coming here. And I want to explain to people in our segment here how it is exactly that we get a film coming to our beautiful state.
Okay.
So let's start from the very beginning. How did you first find out about the film?
Okay. Well, Jennifer Jolly, the executive production coordinator for Hearst, called us up and said, we have this project. It's set in Minnesota, and it's an airport movie about a family that's going through a divorce that gets stuck at an airport on Christmas Eve because of a big snowstorm. And she said, the hitch is, it all is shot at the airport. So 16 or 18 days at the airport. And so I gulped and said, okay, that's great, we'll see what we can do.
Right.
And she said, is this a possibility? And I said, well, we haven't had anything of that size at the airport before, but we'll check it out. So the first thing we do, we get on the horn with the Metropolitan Airports Commission and with Northwest Airlines, who we have a board member from.
Right.
And basically pose the question, what do you think about this? Both of them, again, gulped as well and said, well, let's see what we can do. And so we just started discussing logistics from them. At the same time, it can be overwhelming for the staff people that are going to have to implement this. And so we're also talking to some of the chair people of the board of the MAC to let them know, the economic development aspect of it and how important it is for the state. Hearst Entertainment also produces 12 to 15 TV movies a year. And we met with them a couple of years ago, and they proudly said that they hadn't shot in the U.S. in 2 years. So to now have them call us and want to shoot a film in Minnesota was really important for us. And so we tried to explain that to everyone as well and say, I know this is going to be difficult for the airport, but if we can have a good experience with this group, we can probably expect a couple more films out of them maybe every year. So
Where is Hearst shooting?
Right now?
Well, no, I mean, they hadn't shot in the U.S.?
Yeah, Toronto primarily, Vancouver. Canada has been the big place. We lose a lot of films to Canada because of the exchange rate and some of the incentives that Canada offers. So, so again, to have them back in the U.S. is really exciting, and hopefully that can continue.
So you make these initial calls to all of these people and you get the ball rolling.
Exactly.
Then what's the next step?
Well, we'll shoot some photos of the airport. We will document it from all the locations that they need, just showing them, parking ramps and concourses and what airplanes look like outside and all that stuff. We'll send the pictures off, and also we'll give them basically every couple of days we'll give them an update of how the negotiations are going. And it took probably 3 weeks to really get everyone on board. Again, it's an education process because they haven't had anything this big. Again, we're doing a lot of meetings, a lot of memos, talking to them as more information is coming to the film board about exactly what areas they need, how long they'll need it, can they shoot at night, can they shoot during the day, all that stuff. So we're talking to them throughout the process. They get the photos, they take a look at it. they start talking, is this actually going to be able to happen in Minnesota? They were also looking at Pittsburgh and Chicago, or 2 other places, excuse me.
And you have an example here. You don't have the airport photos.
Exactly.
Because they're kind of boring. But you do have an example. This photo process of getting these photos to them, it sounds to me is pretty critical. I mean, that's when they're going, okay, this is what it really looks like. Can we do it?
Exactly.
Tell me how and why this photo file looks like it does.
Okay. Well, a single photograph would only be able to show a little bit of a location. And so this is the industry standard for how all location photographs are shot for locations. This in particular is Lake Minnetonka and some photos I shot last summer. We paste the photos together, and this way it can give them a larger image of what the actual location what's in the location. And so it's a little more extensive. We'll also usually shoot a reverse. We'll shoot forward in one area and then back so they can see both areas. It's the moving image, and so you need to actually feel like you're moving in these photographs. So these are how they're all shot. They're all put in manila envelopes, so when they call different film commissions, all of us are scrambling to put these together and send them out to the production.
So they get your folders from the airport. They're having a meeting out in LA. What happens during that meeting? What are they?
Well, they talk about the pros and cons of the different areas. Let's say Pittsburgh's airport was publicly owned, and so they had some more leeway there as far as fees and things like that. But we had Northwest Airlines on our side because they're on our board, and the MAC seemed to be very cooperative. We also have the Jobs Fund, which got through the legislature last year. And what that is, we rebate 5% of Minnesota expenditures that create jobs, up to $100,000 a project. So when you weigh that in with their budget and what it was going to cost them to shoot at the airport, the Jobs Fund would basically pay for what they're going to pay for at the airport. So in essence, they are getting the airport for free. So that was a really big incentive for them. So it was really now down to the photographs. Did they like the look of the airport? The Jobs Fund really will reduce the cost of the airport, and are they going to get the cooperation they need? There's some children in the story, and so they really needed to shoot during the day. They couldn't do it all at night. And so was the airport really going to go to bat for them? And really in the end, they really thought it was going to. So they decided to come out and take a look.
Right. That's the scout.
That's the scout. That's what we're hoping for in every project. I don't remember exact statistics, but I think on 75% of the scouts that we've had, either that film is shot here or a subsequent film is shot here from that group.
So if we get them here.
Exactly.
We do all of this work up front. We've got them interested. They're thinking it can happen. If we get them here, it's a really good chance.
Exactly. We've got a really good chance. Yeah. And so in this situation, it was a little different. Oftentimes we'll get a director and a production designer. The production designer is in charge of the look of the film, and possibly a location manager and a producer would come into town. In this situation, because it was so much having to do with the logistics of it, they sent in the executive producer and the vice president of production for Hearst.
That's
so there weren't, so there weren't any creative people involved. So it was just really the deal makers to make sure that the airport really was on board. So we sat down with the Metropolitan Airports Commission, we sat down with Host Marriott, who owns all the vendors out there, and then with Northwest Airlines. And after those meetings, which went incredibly well, they went back to Los Angeles, talked to the network. It's going to be on Lifetime Television. Talked to the network about exactly what we were offering them, and decided whether it was going to work or not. And it's going to. So
that's great.
We're very happy. Yeah.
When did Tony Bill, the director, come into all of this process?
Well, I think he was on fairly early, but we did not know about it until the scout, actually. So it was a really big surprise, and we were incredibly excited about it for a number of reasons. On Untamed Heart, the film they had shot here before, I know the crew had a really great experience. People still talk about how good of an experience that was, and he's very professional. Also, from a logistical standpoint, from the film board standpoint, I think having him on board is really important as well, because the airport is going to be a difficult location, and having an experienced, really knowledgeable, nice director on board will really make it easier, less impactful on the airport. It'll go over a little better that way too.
So if you did have somebody that was less experienced than Tony Bill, what would be your concerns?
I can see changing shots is the big thing. Fortunately, there isn't going to be weather involved inside the airport. But if you're constantly changing shots, the airport can't accommodate for that, and then it really becomes a nightmare for everyone if you're saying, "Oh, I like it over there better," and then you move your whole crew over there, even though this ticket counter didn't realize that they were going to be in front of it. So with an experienced director, I think he's really going to set his shots, and they'll stick to them. So that's important. Also, I think it'll move quicker and just be out of the area.
Will there be? Does the airport then? Will they have a liaison with the company the whole time? Or how are they going to do that?
Yeah, well, it's a little strange at the airport. Different groups control different areas of the airport. So when they're in like the general areas, MAC has a representative on hand. When they're in the Northwest Airlines, MAC does not have a representative on hand. Northwest Airlines has a representative, and same with Host Marriott. So it'll change a little different. Each one have different regulations, but that's how that works. So.
Well, it sounds like you did a tremendous job.
Yeah, this is by far the biggest location that we've put together, and we're very excited about it. I think it's going to go very well, and I was really amazed at the support that we got. Honestly, to begin with, when we first got that call, I didn't think it was going to turn out this way, but it really did, and we're very happy to have them here.
That's great.
Yeah.
Before you go, K2, I want to talk about a couple of things. The Minnesota Production Guide we've also mentioned earlier in the show. This is available from the Minnesota Film Board.
Yeah, this is the production guide that we put out annually. This year the title is Minnesota Works, and in it we list crew, support services, accommodations, weather, location information, basically anything that anyone is ever going to need when they come to shoot in Minnesota, or even thinking about shooting in Minnesota, they'll get one of these. Last year our production guide won the best production guide in the world, so we were very excited about that, and hopefully this will continue. We had a lot
this one tops it even.
Yeah, I really think it does.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people donate the photography for that, so very happy.
And if people are curious to know what's going on in the film business, there is a number for them to call.
Yeah. Our hotline number is 333-0436, and that number lists films they're shooting in town, extra opportunities, auditions, seminars, all kinds of different things going on around town. So we update that about once a week, depending on how busy it is. But yeah, you can basically get any information you need on that. Also, we have a website, which I don't think you have a thing for, but it's www.mnfilm.org, and on that we have also a lot of information on goings-on around town. So.
Yeah. And why don't you do the hotline number one more time?
Hotline number is 333-0436.
Great. K2, it's just a pleasure.
Thank you
nice
for having
work.
me, Janet.
Looking forward to having that film here.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks. Theatre de la Jeune Lune is presenting Shakespeare's Twelfth Night in March, and you won't want to miss Phil's conversation with the show's director, Bob Rosen, and actor Sarah Agnew, coming up next on Artifacts.
Well, it would be hard for me to believe that anyone has not heard of the company that our next guests are representing, Theatre de la Jeune Lune. We have Bob Rosen, who is one of the performers and directors, a number of things, and Sarah Agnew. I want to welcome you both to Artifacts.
Thank you, Phil.
Glad you're here. Bob, good to see you.
Nice to see you.
This is sort of a show about venerable arts institutions here in the Twin Cities. How long has TJL been around?
This is our 19th season. Next year will be 20 years.
Wow, that is good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great. And you're doing, right now, as we're sitting here, you've got 12th Night up. Is that right? And in this particular project, you directed it.
Yes.
Any specific challenges to this sunny comedy?
Oh, are you kidding? First of all, it's Shakespeare. It's my first attempt at directing Shakespeare.
Yeah.
I guess I could say I was scared out of my wits.
Because of the language in particular, or?
Well, because of the language, because of the aura around Shakespeare, and which I tried not to think about really, because I think it's best not to think about that.
Good move, yeah.
And the language is very challenging, of course, not for me as a director. Well, it is, but mostly for the actors. And we've done, this is our third Shakespeare in the history of the company. The very first show was Midsummer Night's Dream.
I would not have remembered
back 20 years ago. Well, we never did it here. It was only performed in France.
Okay.
10 years ago, we did Romeo and Juliet.
So about every 10 years, you tackle the Bard.
Perhaps.
Yeah, well, good for you. That's great.
It's a funny image, tackling the Bard.
Yeah. Well, and when he heard that Theatre de la Jeune Lune was doing it, I think he rolled over a little bit. Is there a special Jeune Lune take on this show that people are going to see that they wouldn't see if the Guthrie was doing it or just about any other darn theater company? I mean, you guys are inimitable. I mean, you have your own style.
Well, I think that we didn't place it in a specific context, like layering it with a political idea or something like that. We embraced the idea of folly and Twelfth Night, and that things are just kind of go a little crazy, and each character follows their own trip on sort of losing it and then getting sort of tumbling into their passions and the folly of that.
And you play Mariah. Mm-hmm. Had you done Shakespeare before?
I did in college. We did Midsummer.
Okay, so this is a new role, though,
Yeah,
this particular
yes.
one. How is it?
It's great. It's great fun.
I like the way the eyes go up. It's like, I can tackle Mariah. I don't know about that Shakespeare guy. That's
Well,
good.
it's a pleasure because she's sort of in a trio with two other characters who are drunkards and always looking for a good time.
Yeah.
So, and she's very stiff, but sort of falls into their
Now,
playfulness.
how did you work up for that role? I mean, did you and three friends go out and get drunk a lot? Do the character thing? Or,
Well, no, not exactly.
I know you get your director here, but he must have given you some hints. That's all right. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting doing this role because this character is part of this family, Olivia, the Countess, who's in mourning. And so there's a very strict, veiled mourning code placed on the household. So she's in that, and then she butts up against these people who are very playful and are trying to shake things up in the household. So
Just
it's
like
a great
Shakespeare,
journey.
put a whole bunch of constraints on some people who have to explode right out of it. Yeah. That's great.
Well, it's nice. It's really a nice vehicle, I think, for the actors, and for Sarah, because it's a part that is very, as she said, sort of strict and veiled in the beginning, and Mariah is part of the household, so there's a certain decorum that she has to follow. But underneath all of that, it's a person who really wants to have fun.
Yes.
And because other people in the house are starting to, they're tired of the period of mourning, which is sort of imposed not so much by Olivia, but by her steward Malvolio, who's a strict Puritan, and imposes this, and people start to break out of that. It's also the spirit of Twelfth Night, which is a festival, the Feast of Fools, and so Mariah sort of picks up on the other people who start to break the rules, and she goes with that.
All right, so Twelfth Night, that's where they invert the rules of society and order. I never connected.
It's a great
Thank you for
theme.
being here.
It's a nice, it's a
That is
pagan
great.
festival, and the Feast of the Fools, where it's given over to the sort of everything is turned on its head.
The fool becomes the king.
The fool becomes
yeah.
king, exactly.
Yeah. We're in March of 1998. How long ago, I'm thinking kind of in production terms, when did folks at Jeune Lune say, let's maybe think about doing Twelfth Night? How far back do you start thinking about that kind of a choice?
January.
Was it in March? Or it was last spring, or what? I think.
Well, we've been talking, every time we start talking about our seasons and what plays we might choose to do or what work we'll develop ourselves, Shakespeare always comes up. And Twelfth Night had been batted around quite a few times over the years. And finally we decided, I think a year ago, that we were going to.
So that's when the decisions start being made. And
Yeah.
now, how did it fall on you to direct it? I mean, it's like everybody else stepped back one step, and there you were, and whoops, I guess it's Bob.
Well, I was ready to direct again, and I thought it would be a challenge to direct that show. And
you all work as an ensemble, though. I mean, unlike many companies, maybe most companies hereabouts, I mean, you have a company, right? You have a troupe. Can you just discuss that for a little bit for folks who maybe don't know that you all are there and you kind of sign on for the duration?
Yeah, we have 8 members of the company, and we work full-time Tuesday through Sunday, and we make decisions together as a group, and it's great because after working with the same people for so long, there's a repertoire that you just can't find by putting, people together immediately that haven't worked together before. So it's great.
So some of the administrative, and obviously what goes on stage, but also, isn't that part of your structure too? I mean, just the super...
we all participate
structure?
in some form of the administration of the company.
Yeah.
And the company members all participate in the writing, acting, directing, designing.
Right.
So it's really a community of artists who work together to create each work that we do. And some of the works are scripted, such as Twelfth Night. And some of the works are total creations by the company. The work we did before this, The Pursuit of Happiness, was a 2-part show, and we sat down a couple of years ago and said this is an idea for a show, and we all sat around the table and started writing it, just from a very basic idea. So our work takes many, many forms and comes from many, many different places, but it's really a unique thing and a great thing for the artist to be able to work in this kind of environment where we all sit together and collaborate on all of the projects. So if you come to see our work, You'll see the same people on stage pretty much. We do also hire artists from outside of the company to fill out
As needed.
for other roles. But
Sure.
if you come, you'll see the same artists, the same actors in every production. We've been together for a long time.
And speaking of going to see your good shows, let's orient our audience here as to where you are physically. Where is you're in a wonderful building.
I thought you meant personally. Well,
Yeah, no, this is a test. As to right now, do you know where you are?
my back is a little stiff right now.
Where is the Jeune Lune space? Where are you guys?
Well, it's where are we? It's in the warehouse district of Minneapolis. It's 1st Avenue North and 1st Street. It's a big red building, and it's on the historical.
It's on the register. I think
Right.
Cass Gilbert did the exterior. I don't know
Yes.
anything about the inside, but I know that it's a classic.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
You guys helped
space.
save this space for Minneapolis.
Yeah, we basically took away 4 floors of
Oh, I
the
didn't know that.
interior.
So you kind of gutted it to that extent.
Yeah, we gutted
Part
it.
of it.
Yeah, you've got offices, I know, on the one side there.
Right, and the seats we can rearrange in any
Yeah, that
configuration
flexible
according to.
space. In fact, I have not seen this production. How did you do anything special? Is it in the round, or are you off to a corner?
The seats are kind of way back
Yeah.
in a corner. We're using it in a diagonal in such a way that we have never used before. Actually, the whole season has been that same configuration.
Sure. Let's talk about directing a little bit. You run out and you get the script. You buy the book. What are the first things that you work on?
By the Cliff Notes.
Actually, I saw the child's book that
I
you gave to your daughter here.
Yes.
Which is about long enough, right, for the show. What's the first thing you tackle? How do you start blocking it out in your mind? Or does it change from play to play? Or?
Well, we don't approach a work in a traditional sense of blocking a show. Blocking means where you decide where all of the actors move, when they say something, and what happens. First of all, we go through the script, and a team of the company will sit down and work through the script and decide what we keep, what we throw away, if we're going to alter something. And of course, it depends on the work and if it's a contemporary play or a classic play, whether you're allowed to do that or if it's our own work. But with Shakespeare, if we would have done the show as written, it would probably be a 4-hour show. I don't know. So we hone it down because it's a big, complex show, and we decide what do we want to say with the show. What is the play we're going to make out of this play? The play was written in 1600, 1602. So what resonance does it have for an audience today? We don't want to just stage a museum piece in period costume. Yeah. Shakespeare was a contemporary writer in his time. Shakespeare didn't produce Shakespeare. I mean,
right.
you know what I mean?
People showed up by the droves and watched this guy.
He was a very contemporary writer, and so how do we capture that resonance, the way that play resonated for an audience in his time? How do we capture that same resonance for an audience today? What is inherent in that play that speaks to an audience today?
And as a director and as an actor, when you're on stage or you're there and you're watching the show and the audience is there, your real live audience, what do you most hope or what do you most enjoy an audience response being? What is it that you feel or look for or listen for?
Well, just that they're there with you. When it's a comedy, it's much easier to gauge. They're laughing or they're not. But there are moments in this show that are very passionate, and they don't elicit the immediate laugh from the audience, but you know whether they're with you or they're not. It's just a sense of an engagement with the audience, that they're there, sort of sitting back. So that's what you really look for, is that feeling that they're on the ride with you for the show.
Great. We've got just a minute left. I want to make sure that if people want to find out about tickets or other shows and things, there's a number people can call for Jeune Lune.
Yes. 333-6200.
Okay, you guys work that out.
It's a great show. It's really fun. It's fun. It's a comedy. It has a tragic element.
Yeah.
Of course, we push the comedy a little bit, but it has everything. It has a lot of pathos.
Well, I know our director's daughter has been to see it, so I figure we're all going to come and see that.
And she's
Good.
She's 6 or 5 or whoever knows. Real briefly, upcoming shows? What's coming up, as 1998 goes on?
Our next show, which will be opening in the beginning of May, is an adaptation of Dashiell Hammett's Red Harvest.
Oh, yeah.
It's a detective show, and it's really rich. It's really...
A lot of bodies in that one.
Yes,
style
a
of,
lot of dead bodies.
Yeah, I've read it. I know it.
in the style of Phill noir, which was...
You're going to be on stage for this one?
I think so.
Okay.
We haven't cast it yet.
All right. Well, let's hope. All right. Sarah, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, Phil.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks a
Bob,
lot,
good
Phil.
to see you. Peter de la Jeune Lune. Now, a City Hall expatriate who just happens to be a great singer and songwriter. She's performing a one-person show called Evolution at the Great American History Theater in St. Paul later this month. Stay tuned for a wonderful tune from Natalie Miller right after this art quote. All from Artifacts here on City Cable 34. Stay tuned.
should be feeling from you. I have everything I need. The love of my family, and firmly believing you're walking with me too. Yet I keep feeling this pain in my heart, and searching for answers of truth. I keep on trying to capture the love I once knew, the love in my soul, back in my youth. Lord, give me my rest. I can't help but feel so tired and worn. Oh, please open my eyes and lead me onward, onward, and knowing that I can be reborn. You know I keep feeling this pain in my heart, and searching for answers of truth. I keep on trying to capture the love I once knew, the love in my soul, back in my youth. Lord, I know you're my friend. Oh, please give me this peace I should be feeling from you. You've given everything I need. The love of my family. Keep me believing that you're walking with me too. Help me to capture this love I once knew. Oh, dear Lord, I surrender to
Natalie, that was wonderful.
Thanks.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And you wrote that?
Yes, I did.
And this is going to be in your show?
This will be in the show, and it's from a show called Surrender to Love, which I showcased a couple of years ago as a solo performance.
Tell us a little bit about Evolution.
Evolution is the past 30 years of music, both in pop and in stage and jazz music. So the first act will be all pop music, second act will be jazz, and staged from maybe about 50 years until the recent, until just what came out recently.
And you have some plans after this show.
Yes, and so the purpose is to get everybody to come, to see how the performance goes, to hear some of the music that I've written, and then also to take this show and expand it into a 3-person show, to open it here in the Twin Cities, and then move it to off-Broadway, where an off-Broadway producer is interested in producing it for me.
Well, my best luck to you.
Thank you.
Natalie, of course, I have to tell the viewers, Natalie worked with me for about a year in the Office of Film, Video, and Recording, so I am really wishing you the best of luck, because you deserve it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, we will be back with Phill to wrap up the show. We've got some pictures from the latest show at the Weisman Museum at the U of M coming up before that. Stay tuned. Well, you just saw some images from In the Eye of the Storm, An Art of Conscience, the current show at the Weisman Art Museum at the U of M. The first image you saw was Custodian by Robert Gwathami. The second was entitled Mayor Daly by Bernard Perlin. And that one was followed by On the East River by Nikolai Sikowski.
You know, and interestingly, the first two that you saw were painted in the 60s, and they kind of had that impression on me. The last one was from 1934, and I thought it looked very contemporary. We also want to thank Jenny Mercado from the university. I think she's in journalism there, and she pulled that together for the Weisman, of course, and they provided those images to us. So it's a nice show. It's up through March 22nd.
Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah, and
oh, very important, Natalie's show, Evolution. We need to give you a couple of important details. The show will be at the Great American History Theater, 7:30 p.m., March 31st. And if you want more information or tickets to the show, call the Great American History Theater box office, 292-4323. Don't miss it.
No, don't miss it. And just for you Artifacts fans, she's going to be in it. You're gracing the stage.
One brief shining moment. Be there.
A little harmony there by Janet
Yeah,
Zahn.
it'll be great.
That's right.
Great fun.
And we want to also remind you that the deadline for this month's Artifacts giveaway, the fabulous giveaway, is March 23rd. So call the City Cable 34 hotline, 673-2234. Those are good tickets. That's a great event to go and be part of.
March 23rd, deadline, don't forget it.
That's right, because it happens. Now, for the end of the show, Chit Chat, some fun stuff. By the way, last month we mentioned some birthdays for local theater companies. It turns out that the organization that told us about that is having their birthday this year. The Minnesota Association of Community Theaters turns 25 years old in 1998. So congratulations to them. They do a lot of good work statewide, and they are the ones that take Minnesota theaters out on those regional and national festivals. They do great stuff. Now, for you book lovers, and that's probably pretty much everybody.
I think so. I hope so.
On a collegial note, we wanted to plug a show that we're not involved with, but it's called Northern Lights. It's a look at Minnesota books and writers, and they've been going since 1988, 10 years. They cover Minnesota writers, Minnesota books, and they're on at 7 p.m. on Metro Cable Network, Channel 6, which we're also sometimes on. And it's just, for those of you who love books, watch it. It's good.
Good show.
And finally, this is the time of year.
Yes.
We get an update every year from our pal Merle Lapnow. Now, he was involved in theater at the university for, 40 years or more. He sends out the Lapnow Chronicles every year. Talks about the plane rides he's taken, the hotels he stayed in, the meal money he spent, but most important to us is he tells us how many plays he's seen. This is a man who has counted the plays he has seen since he was a wee child. Last year he saw 49 more plays, just in last year alone, 1997, which brings him up grand total from 1914 through 1997. The man has seen 8,246 plays. Merle Lapnow, you're an animal. Keep it up.
The best.
You are.
Cool. There we are. Chit Chat is over.
That's right.
We want to let you know that Tom Just will be here next month with a wonderful string quartet performing.
I'm looking forward to that.
It'll be great fun.
Nice. You bet it is. And grab your pencils, pens, pads of paper, whatever, because the Artifacts calendar is coming up.
And if you have any ideas, comments about the show, be sure to call us at 673-2234.
So I'm Phill Lindsay.
And I'm still Janet Zahn.
We'll see you next time on Artifacts.